ladies and gentlemen. I think it's not needed to introduce myself because most of you know me. Maybe new for you that I'm not anymore at German Meteorological Service, but back at university. Maybe this is the biggest news. Today, I don't have any intention to be scientific. Okay? Maybe tomorrow. Yeah. And I would like to talk or something like a storytelling about how we bring the combination human biometeorology, tourism and recreation, because as you know, we had they still existing for a long time. I was leading 20 years a commission at the International Society of Biometeorology for tourism, climate tourism and recreation. And started after Ljubljana, 1996, after the ISP there. And the idea was how to bring all this information together, but in a way where we can show this information easy understandable, but also how it can be applied, let me say, to non-experts, non-climatologists. And we thought it will be an easy target, but we are still working on it. Okay, and then we had...
Just click one mouse, click there for it. No, yeah, on the mouse. Then it should be okay.
No? Yeah, it's okay. And then we had several options how to decide that, and we had to start from the beginning. There's a system that has been developed after Ljubljana and also the conferences that we had in Sydney in cooperation or in the frame of several projects. The first project was the climate therapy in Austria. So because, you know, if you have a specific location which has to be certified as spa and so on, you need a certification for climate therapy, and you have to analyze this data, and you have to get the certification, which has to be replaced every 10 years and so on. Okay, and then we thought how to produce that, and then we start. This is something that I will tell tomorrow about the FIFA history and transferring the games. And usually when you talk to non-experts, they will like that kind of diagram. That was the diagram where FIFA decided in order to give the games to Qatar. And there's one possibility. The other possibility is that we know all this history, and we know that this kind of diagrams have been developed because of lack of data. Because at that time we didn't have the data, but we had other methods which was more accurate, maybe describing climate and so on. And we see that in reality, we try to summarize things, but in the same way also to simplify. And maybe I'm not so much friend of simplifying. I'm friend of simplifying, but not so much. And then we decide how to go on. This is also some comparison between climates. That means we have to compare. If you say to someone, this is the difference between here and here, maybe people will understand that. So it started in that way from easy diagrams and so on. And then, to be honest, I have been shocked in the year 2007, maybe it was 2006, when I saw that kind of study from the European Union. There was a project about the tourism climate index. They talk about losers and winners in terms of climate change. And they provide this analysis based on simulations on the data, and they find or they promote it in that way that one day the Mediterranean will be too hot, and the new Mediterranean will be, not in the Arctic Sea, but maybe on the North Sea or Baltic Sea. And we realized that having that kind of information or using an index who is developed from something different, and if you are not familiar with information and you transfer this to another thing, you will be not the winner, you will be the loser, but not because of climate change, because you may make something wrong. And then we realized that this analysis had been done, let me say, for people who are more not belonging to, the climate part, but more to the tourism part. And then we thought about that. what is the thinking of a climatologist and what is the thinking from the tourism industry? They look on one specific thing. They have this triple S, and maybe you can imagine this is sun, sea. There's another one which is sand. So how to describe that? No one of this data we have. And they focus specifically on only these three issues. It's not a scientific, let me say, comprehensive approach about tourism. It's marketing, what we have here. And of course, when we focus on specific thing and people talk, like and show this graph with the tourism climate index, the maps for the, let me say, for the North Sea or for the northern countries, they thought we will be absolutely the winners. But you have to not focus only on one, but you have to combine maybe different kind of tourisms or different activities that you have or different programs that you have and so on. And then we say, okay, when we want to develop something, it has to cover not only summer, but has to cover also the other seasons. And then we started, I'm sorry to tell you, you can imagine where these pictures are. All of these pictures are from Greece, also the snow. Greece has 25 ski centers. Not anymore, yeah. And then we ask the question how we can bring the information that we have from, let me say, from this approach for summer and winter and also the 3S or the 4S, which parameters are behind which factories. Usually, meteorology will say, okay, let's produce the tourism climate index, we finish the problem, okay? And we wanted to know more which are the parameters or the factors, we have to call factors, which are more important or which are relevant. And then we try to bring, let me say, the view from tourism together with the view from climate. And in tourism climatology, we have three facets. The one is the aesthetic one, which is sunshine duration, visibility, and so on. And you can have here an attractiveness, but also an enjoyment. And the other point is you can have also physical factors, but you can have also a danger. Like if you're exposed by a hurricane and so on, we will be not so lucky. And the one thing that we know at that time was, of course, all things that they have to do with thermal. And we have not only wind chill, we have the mentioned before, we have more sophisticated indices where we can apply, let me say, the effect not of tourism on climate, but of climate on tourism, especially we have a specific target, and we define this target, which is the human. So that was the challenge that we had, how we can bring all this information together. And then we tried to bring this information together with a view from tourism, the view from human biometeorology. And then we thought, okay, maybe it will be of importance, a bit of relevance for us to know about the activities, what kind of activities, what kind of tourism has to be there, but also the facilities, because we have also microclimate, we have also the conditions there in order to combine. And to focus not only on the tourists, but on the I don't like to call the guys there tourists. I call them visitors. And therefore also for tourism industry. And the question was how to combine that. Because we had the problem in tourism climate index, you get a value, but you don't know what in reality is behind. And then we thought how to bring this information together. And we thought it has to be a quantification. It has to be also more than quantification, has been evaluation, but finally it has to be a destination analysis and to be valid for several groups. And then we developed something like a system called Climate Tourism Transfer Information Scheme. And the idea behind is to have something which is visible for the people to understand. And when we started preparing that and bringing this together in terms of a project that we have with Austria, that was also a German project, we run exactly the thing that I learned in the last 9 years at DWD and working with Jin and the other groups there, is we need not a development, but we need a co-development. That means we develop these possibilities together with the guys who will be applied at it. And then we thought it will be of interest to have, of course, the basic climatic parameters that we have. I think we are all familiar with that parameters, but we thought also that the month is not appropriate enough in order to provide this information. And based on the old climatological tradition that we have, and if you find climate records from the past, maybe before the 50s, you will see that they provide each month 3 values. That means for the 3 decades that we have. And we thought maybe on the frequencies and based on the threshold values to produce that. And in that time, because we have been most familiar with the physiologically equivalent temperature in order to provide heat stress, cold stress, and saltiness, and so on, and also including not only thermal comfort but precipitation, there are 2 factors which affect maybe let me say people, visitors, which is first is temperature, and then you have precipitation, and then all the other relevant parameters for the health and relevance and so on. And finally, we got a scheme which is flexible. That means if in a region you don't have snow, it's not needed to include, but if you have something specific, you include. But it's based on frequencies. And you see that kind of diagrams. Sorry, I have to go back. And I think that kind of diagrams in a resolution of 10 days, we have seen lots of them here this week, especially on Monday in this session, human biometeorology. You can compare, you have the easy comparison, let me say, from 2 different indices. Here's PET and mPET. You see slight differences, especially in the winter. And then we thought it's also important that it was maybe what I will present tomorrow is a decision about transferring the games of FIFA from summer to winter. That was that diagram. Because we show it's not only the period of the year which is important with this one, but also what time of the day. And the other factor which we really wanted to be included was precipitation, but not amount of precipitation in months with that value, but its frequency analysis in order to separate. For other studies that we recently made, we separate also precipitation during day and night, because when we have only data, this is possible. This is the possibilities that we have, easy understandable. And this is also the comparison, easy comparison to see that. This is the comparison for Tokyo and Sapporo. As you know, the games have, not the games, but some sport activities have been transferred. And this is now the final diagram based on the PET analysis, thermal component, precipitation, how to bring all this information together. You see, we take based on thresholds, which is known from references. You can provide also, let me say, also for mortality thresholds or something like that. This has been also made. And then I got the pressure from Ksenia Zaninovic, and because I want to have only the frequency for this specific time. And Ksenia told me, we need something that the people can assess, can have a rating. And if you have frequencies, you can define if this frequency is positive or negative. This is the easy game. And based on that, kind of studies, you see here the example for Tokyo. You see here in the red box the time where the period of the Olympic Games take place. You cannot change that. Never try that. You can change maybe FIFA, but you cannot change Olympic Games the time. This is set up and it's history. You can forget that. And this is also the comparison which I will talk also tomorrow with Tokyo and Sapporo. This is really something that is flexible. It has to be flexible and it has to be coded a lot. And it has to be also providing some numbers. And as my conclusion here, we can combine here the different disciplines. We combine here human biometeorology and tourism climatology. In reality, the similar way that I show with CTIS is not needed to have that kind of parameters. You can use also the different orientation of buildings, aspect ratio. There are 2-3 papers about Barcelona based on that analysis, but visualization, the way how you show something is much important. People need color. Difficult for me because I have problem, don't see that. And I think the way how you present, this is only one option. There are also many, many other opportunities how to do that. That was my starting my storytelling, and something that is important for me to mention that when we develop something like that, we have to run the code development with the people who one day will be applied. And I think this is important. Thank you very much.